Welcome to the Evo India podcast. Today I'm joined in the studio by Anand Mohan. He's the head of digital and events at Evo India. Anand, say hi.
Hi guys.
And he's here because Sirish is off in Spain to drive the new Audi Q6 e-tron. Lucky man. Today we're going to be talking about hybrids. Yeah.
Yes.
And we decided to talk about this because of the latest issue of Evo India magazine. It has a bunch of hybrids on the cover. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the cover here. If you are listening on our Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcast channels, head over to evoindia.com/magazine and you can check out the whole issue and the cover. And a lot of hybrids in this issue. We've got the S63 e-Performance, which is a plug-in hybrid. We've got the GLS 600, which is a mild hybrid. We've got the SF90 XX, which is another plug-in hybrid. We've got the Creta Comparison, which has hybrids in it. The
Grand
Hyrider.
Vitara and the Hyrider.
Yes.
The Grand Vitara has a
Correct.
petrol though.
Yeah, so we've got the Hyrider hybrid in that story. We've got the new 911 hybrid coverage. So a lot of hybrids in this issue, which got me thinking, why do we have so many hybrids suddenly in the Indian market?
It is quite interesting. Actually, a lot of people might be thinking they are a replacement to diesels, but so much else is happening in the world, right? People are getting more environmentally conscious. They want more efficiency. They want better performance. So both ends of the spectrum, hybrids are working. On the performance front, on our cover, we've got the S63.
Absolutely mental thing, 1400 Nm talk, something ridiculous like that.
You just drove it. Tell us how was your experience?
It's nuts. I picked it up from the office early in the morning. We charged it overnight, plug-in hybrid. It doesn't need an overnight charge. It needs a couple of hours of charge, but you plug it in overnight and then you can glide out in full EV mode. And I drove it for the first 10 kilometers in absolute silence, completely silent in EV mode. It was eerie. And then once you're out of the city, we had the V8 to play with, and it's mental. It sounds good, it makes nice noises. It's quick. It's got that immediate torque from the electric motors, but it's also got the ebb and flow of a proper engine, with its torque delivery. You've got violent launches. I'm not even kidding when I say violent. It's insane.
Yeah, I saw the video of the S60 squatting before it goes into the horizon.
It's nuts.
It's
unbelievable. It's absolutely nuts. And I think that's sort of the top of the pyramid of what hybrids are today, with the sort of performance that they can deliver. But when you talk about hybrids, it's not just top class plug-in hybrids. There's a whole spectrum of hybrids, right? And they start right at the entry level with
micro hybrids.
Micro hybrids, correct. So Anand, what is a micro hybrid?
A micro hybrid, well, you've experienced it. You've seen a Ciaz, you've seen a Scorpio. These were basically small start-stop systems, and they didn't really do much in terms of hybrids, but were used smartly to get good tax breaks and price the cars well and sort of introduce Indians to hybrids without really getting deep into the tech of it.
But as fundamentally the tech was the same, right? You had a battery, you had some sort of a motor or a generator attached to the drivetrain, and this battery would be charged from this generator and could feed power to this motor, and it would allow for a little bit of boost or a little bit of torque fill, you could say.
With the mild hybrids, yes. A lot of the mild hybrids do that. The GLS Maybach, for example, is on our cover. That's a mild hybrid, and it works really well as a mild hybrid. Gives better efficiency. The key to a mild hybrid is efficiency. It's not performance. And then you go up the ladder in the hybrid front, not the performance.
So, but can you feel a mild hybrid system working?
No, not much. Probably not at all. I also drove the GLC, the new GLC, which has got a mild hybrid system. You don't feel.
One thing I noticed about the GLC actually is that when you're braking, sometimes it cuts the engine completely.
In its efficiency mode, the RPMs are lower, it cuts the engine quicker. But when you're in normal comfort drive modes, you don't feel it as much. So you've got to choose your driving modes in these mild hybrids to get the best efficiency out of it. But the efficiency is amazing. I mean, for petrol motors, I drove it in the hills. I was in Arunachal a couple of weeks ago driving the GLC. A video will drop soon. the efficiency is amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
14, 15 in the hills when I'm not even light footing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
And even within this mild hybrid system, there are a couple of rungs to the ladder. You've got your 12-volt systems,
Yeah,
and you've got 48-volt systems.
correct.
The GLS, the 600, has a 48-volt system,
Okay.
and that battery and motor actually feeds a fair amount of power and torque. I think it gives 12 horsepower and some 200 Nm of torque. So
It does. Okay.
it's not completely insignificant to the performance
But
of the
do
car.
you feel it when you're driving?
You don't, because it's so seamlessly integrated. When you put down your power, it's not like you're getting 200 Nm on top of the peak torque of the engine. You're getting 200 Nm when the engine is not making peak torque. So
it's smartly calibrated
Exactly.
to get you the efficiency and a little bit of performance when you need it.
And mild hybrids is, I would call, the second rung of the ladder above micro, and then you move on to strong
the
hybrids.
strong hybrids,
So
yeah.
what are strong hybrids? And these we've actually had around in India for a fair bit of time now. Yeah.
And we've experienced the High Rider and
Yeah.
the Grand Vitara strong hybrids, also the Invicto and the
Yes.
what's the Toyota, the High Cross.
Correct.
Right. So it should be the other way around, because you see more High Crosses than the
Yeah.
Invicto. But yeah, I mean, we've experienced them, and for the strong hybrids that we've seen made in India,
Yeah.
the efficiency is the way you drive it, right?
Correct.
If you're driving it under 90 kilometers per hour, you're getting the best efficiency of the strong hybrid system.
Correct.
But the faster you go, and then it's just like a
Yeah.
petrol car.
Correct.
Uh,
These cars you spoke about, they're actually the newer breed of strong hybrids we've had in India. Before that, we've had the Camry hybrid for very long. We've had the Accord in India, which was a hybrid.
Yeah.
We even had the Honda City hybrid about 2-3 years ago.
Correct.
So these
But before that, we've also driven the Lexuses.
Lexuses, yeah. How can we not?
Yeah.
I mean, fancy Toyotas, but it's the same tech, right? It's Toyota's technology which is used in these Lexuses, and they're phenomenal cars to drive. What I love the most about these hybrids is that you can actually use them as EVs for small distances and for certain amount of speed.
Right.
So mild hybrids and micro hybrids, you can never turn the engine off and drive them. But with these strong hybrids, you generally get an EV mode. You can, if your battery has enough charge, so certain conditions have to be met. If your battery has enough charge, if you're not asking for too much in terms of acceleration, and if you're not asking for too much in terms of speed. So say below 40-50 kilometers an hour at light throttle, if you have enough charge in the battery, you can drive it completely silently in electric mode. So in parking lots, in getting out of home, creeping in traffic, it's completely silent. In fact, I remember we did a couple of stories with the Toyota Camry a few years ago, and at that time, Toyota told us, this was before the High Rider and all of that had launched in India, Toyota told us that according to their data, in India, because our cities are so congested, 60% of the time, Camrys are driven in EV mode. 60% of the time.
That is amazing. So the efficiency must be insane.
Yeah, because you're just in, say, a city like Bangalore or in Mumbai or in Delhi, you're in just stop-start traffic the whole time. So it can juice the battery enough and just stay in EV mode because you're just creeping the whole time.
Also makes you such a calmer driver, right? You're not always
Absolutely.
on the gas. You're not trying to wring the performance out of the engine, going easy on it, because you know the benefits of efficiency.
That's actually true, And when I'm driving a hybrid, I actually like to play the game. I like to regen the battery as much as possible. So I try to anticipate traffic, lift and coast so that the battery is charging, and try to juice up the battery as much as possible so that when I do have to use the battery, I can use it in EV mode as much as possible, So it is a little bit of a game.
And it's not like you're like, one of those cab guys who's driving especially very slow just to get efficiency out of it, because these engines have decent performance.
Correct. And with these strong hybrids, you're also getting the benefit of electric torque. Here is where you can actually start feeling the benefits of electric torque really, because you do get instant responses from the throttle pedal. We tested these
between the Grand Vitara and the High Rider, right?
Yeah.
We drove the petrol Grand Vitara and immediately hopped into the High Rider, and they essentially have similar capacity engines, different cycles, of course, but the performance jump when you go from the petrol to the hybrid is a big jump.
There is a big leap.
It was so the petrol was a 14 and something second, and yes, this was about a couple of seconds faster without really adding that much performance to the game.
Yeah, so everyone talks about how hybrids are sort of killing the thrill of driving, but actually it adds performance also, because you do get real benefits of electric motors. And like you said, it's calming. When I drive a hybrid, so we have a Camry long term also at Evo India, and when you're driving that car around town, you're just in such a zen space because it's quiet, it's silent. You can actually hear the music you're playing properly. There's no vibrations. There's no hum of the engine in the background.
It kind of goes with the character of the car, no?
Absolutely. And you get the benefits of an EV without the drawbacks, which is range anxiety, yada, 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 because you have petrol. They call self-charging, so you never need to plug them in. You can drive it on and on just like you would a regular car, but you also have the EV benefits. So I think strong hybrids today are the sweet spot, and that's where Maruti and Toyota are really focusing their efforts. Now they've got the Grand Vitara and the Hyrider, they've got the Invicto, and I'm assuming there will be more products from them in the pipeline.
I mean, there is no official news, but we do talk about the Swift.
The rumored hybrid Swift.
Hybrid Swift. The petrol Swift is doing really well, so I don't know whether they have the incentive to get a hybrid
you just
now.
told me before this podcast that the Swift is the best-selling car in the country today, the new Swift.
Yes,
That's nuts.
and it honestly surprised me because it's a drop in performance, right? And it costs more.
But it clearly shows Maruti knows their market and they're just going to roll with it.
Absolutely. But anyway, we go back to hybrids because that's not a hybrid.
Then we move from strong hybrids, we move to the top rung of the ladder, which is your plug-in hybrids. So what are plug-in hybrids?
Now with plug-in hybrids, we were just talking about the character of the car or strong hybrids, and it makes you drive more efficiently and in a zen space and all that stuff. But with plug-in hybrids, there's so much focus on performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the new era of performance for cars around the world.
It's the new turbocharging.
Exactly. Look at the 911, right?
Yeah.
The 911's now a hybrid. First time ever in the history of the 911.
But that's not a plug-in, huh?
It's not a plug-in.
Yeah,
oh yes, that's a
a
strong hybrid. My bad. But then we have the S63. We recently drove the XM.
Correct.
The XM was incredible. So I didn't charge the battery. So I was driving it with the petrol motor for 90% of the time. But I drove up a hill, up and down, and the battery was charged enough to give me about 10-15 kilometers of charge. And then I could see the jump in performance. Anyway, that car sounds mental and it feels a little crazy. It's very, very uncomfortable. That's another topic.
Yeah, I actually sat in the back of the XM from Bombay to Pune while you were driving. At some point, I got launched into the roof because of some bump. It was not fun.
It was not fun, but it still is an occasion. And that is the direction BMW is seeing, and on the performance front, Mercedes is seeing the same direction.
So fundamentally, the technology is like a strong hybrid Pro Max, where you've got a really large, not EV large, but you've got a larger battery. And that larger battery allows you to obviously draw more power and feed more powerful motors, which gives you obviously more performance. Now, the caveat with that is that it's hard to sort of charge that battery only on regeneration, So, which is why you need to plug it in, because it's a larger battery. So you plug it in, you juice it up. It takes, depending on the size of your battery, depending on the car, it could take anywhere between 2 to 4 hours to
because
charge.
These are slow charging.
Generally slow charging. They don't have fast charging capabilities. That would just add to the complexity of the electrical architecture, I guess. So slow charging, 3 to 4 hours. And then you've got incredible amounts of performance and incredible amounts of efficiency also.
I think the charging bit is okay because you can anytime fuel up the car, right? You don't have to worry about it.
You're not reliant on the charging, but if you want to extract the best out of the technology, you want to keep it juiced up. And most people, at least now we've seen with EV owners, they've got a charger at home. So if you've got a plug-in hybrid, there's no reason why you can't have a charger at home.
Exactly.
And
especially with premium cars like these, you probably have an independent house.
Exactly.
Setting up a charger is easy. Throughout the week, you can drive in full EV mode because these cars can do 120-130 kilometers per hour purely with the electric motor. So there is good performance from the motor. The range is quite good, 60 to 80 kilometers, I think, on most of these cars. So you charge it in the morning, drive it to work and back and plug it in, and the whole week you can do that. And then on the weekend, go to the hill, right?
Absolutely. Go to the hills, have some fun. And that's the joy about a hybrid. Again, like I said earlier, it gives you the benefits of a petrol engine without any of the drawbacks associated with it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Do hybrids actually make sense on an environmental level?
Compared to EVs, well, the size of the battery and the waste, we're definitely looking at a lot more compared to hybrids.
Correct.
Also, there is the charging network issue which you don't have with hybrids. With plug-in hybrids as well, you can, you can bank on the petrol motor whenever you want, and you can drive it everywhere.
Correct.
Right.
So this is where we should talk about Toyota's logic. Toyota's stayed away from BEVs and they're pushing strongly for hybrids. You know, even in global markets, they've got a few BEVs, but their focus is on hybridization. You know, and they've got some logic around this, and they've called it the 1-6-90 rule. The 1-6-90 rule states that the amount of resources, raw material, that goes into one BEV, with that raw material, they can make 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 strong hybrids with the resources that go into one sort of the battery.
They're talking about the battery and the powertrain.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah. So and their logic is that over the life cycle of each of these cars, one BEV versus 6 plug-in hybrids or 90 strong hybrids, the 90 strong hybrids will actually have much less of a carbon footprint compared to the one BEV. You know, it'll save a lot more carbon than that one BEV does, and which is why they're saying hybrids are the way forward. Let's push for hybrids. One thing I'm not sure of is whether their logic also accounts for the rest of the raw materials of the cars, which is your steel and this and that goes into the chassis, the body, the
it clearly can't, right? The logic says that it can't. But in terms of efficiency, you've got to think of it make sound logic. And going for hybrids in the Toyota ecosystem, what you're getting, 30% of Toyota's sales globally, or a little lesser, are for hybrids. So they're clearly banking on it, very strong backing towards hybrids. Now with the Maruti partnership in India, the numbers can go up in India as well, of course towards the lower end of the price range. But the hybrids are not going anywhere. EVs are not selling as much as we anticipated. And now there is so much talk of hybrids in India right now.
What's your personal opinion on hybrids? Do you like them? Do you not like them? Are you somewhere in the middle?
I like the strong hybrids. Haven't driven plug-in hybrids as much.
We don't have so many plug-in hybrids in India today, to be fair.
To be fair. And I like strong hybrids. I don't like the mild hybrids as much, except for the recent experiences I've had with the Mercedes GLC, and you've driven the JLS Maybach. But the strong hybrids are where I think the market lies for in India, especially with diesels going out.
But as an enthusiast, answer that's the critical question. As an enthusiast, do you like hybrids?
As an enthusiast, now it comes to only the performance cars, and I think they definitely work. The performance is huge. We're talking about the new Bugatti that's come out.
That's another one.
That's 1,000 petrol horsepower and 1,000 electric horsepower put together. What, 1,800 something combined.
V16 engine. And I guess hybridization allows you to do that. You know, without a hybrid, that V16 engine would never meet emission norms. It would never be built. But because you've got a hybrid drivetrain, which allows Bugatti to say, okay, our emissions are for what you regulators want, you know. They can build some nuts stuff like that. V16.
I think we're just starting to see how crazy manufacturers can go with the hybrid powertrain right now.
Fair enough. And I think I echo that sentiment. I think in the luxury end and the performance luxury end of the segment, there's really exciting stuff happening for enthusiasts. Closer to reality, the cars that you and I can afford, I don't think there's been a performance focus with hybrids yet. It's more an efficiency focus with hybrids. Maybe somewhere down the line, a Toyota or a Maruti can come up with a fun little sporty hybrid, which is relatively affordable and which would excite us enthusiasts. Today we know that 3-cylinder from Toyota is not the most engaging engine. You know, all these hybrids are mated to CVTs. That sort of kills the joy of driving a little bit. So at the affordable end of the segment, maybe us enthusiasts have some waiting to do, but for sure the technology and the potential is 100% there.
But what we also know is that not many other manufacturers are looking at hybrids. Besides
MG is,
MG is.
MG
I was
is.
about to
Yeah.
mention MG because besides Toyota, Maruti, the combine, and MG, no one else is looking at hybrids because you can only go in one direction in terms of
Tata and
investments.
Mahindra
Right?
have locked
Committed
in
to
on
EVs.
EVs,
Yeah.
and that's their way forward. But it's a fast-changing environment. Things change so rapidly. That shift from diesel to no diesel was like,
Few years.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And I think you never know what's going to happen in the future. Once there's a lot of potential around flex fuels, around green fuels, around carbon neutral fuels, and if all of that happens, we could have a lot of ICE engines in the future that run on these fuels mated to hybrid drivetrain. So the internal combustion engine, maybe not on petrol, but the internal combustion engine could live on for very long with a hybrid drivetrain.
And the new direction that the government is taking can
That's another
push
thing.
all other manufacturers to focus on hybrids in the future.
That's another thing. So, which brings me to my question: why aren't sales of hybrids as high in India as they are in other countries? One is obviously the lack of products.
Taxation,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's cess on what 15% cess, is it?
Yeah. So currently,
Mm.
tax. If you look at say like something like a Grand Vitara,
Mm.
you've got 28% GST and you've got a 15% cess, so you're getting 43% tax on that car.
Yeah.
The other hand, something like an EV gets 5% GST. So EVs are highly incentivized, which is why a lot of manufacturers are pushing for EVs, because they know there are incentives in that space. The government wants to push EVs and they're pushing for EVs because they know if they get tax breaks, they can be competitive in terms of pricing.
Yeah.
Hybrids are not incentivized yet, but there is a possibility that it would get incentivized in the future. Nitin Gadkari has said that there's a possibility that GST on hybrids could go down from 28 to 12%.
Yeah.
And that would make a lot of sense because your Grand Vitara, your High Riders, all of those cars will be a significant amount cheaper, lakh and a half, 2 lakhs cheaper.
Yeah.
And at that price point, the delta between your standard petrol Grand Vitara to your hybrid Grand Vitara is not that much. But then the fuel savings are still massive.
They're more than diesel.
Yeah.
Right now the delta is what, a 2.5-3 lakh gap between a petrol and a strong hybrid.
Yeah.
But going forward, if they get the right tax incentives, a hybrid could be a logical purchase, and you don't even have to look at it from an environment friendly choice point of view.
Yeah.
It could be actually efficient. It could be your premium top of the line flagship product that you want to go for.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So lots of potential around hybrids. I think another factor to consider is that people are getting more environmentally conscious. People are forward thinking in terms of tech. They want new tech and they want to do what they can to help with the environment. Now, look at a city like Delhi, for example. October, November, December, it's just smog. It's toxic. The air goes above the AQI meter. The AQI meter is capped at 500. And
bouncing on its red line.
it's off the limiter and sometimes over revving also on the AQI meter.
Yeah.
But obviously a lot of that is because of stubble burning. We can't ignore that fact. And both the Punjab government and the Delhi government need to do stuff that addresses the stubble burning so that North India isn't so affected by bad AQI. But at the same time, as car enthusiasts, as the car industry, there's no reason why we can't take responsibility to decarbonize our cities. And that's happening globally. And if a hybrid allows you to do that, where at 60% of the time you're not putting out anything from your tailpipe, something like a strong hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, most of the time, 90% of the time probably. That's just a figure I'm saying out of thin air. But most of the time you won't be using your petrol motor. You will have a positive impact on the particulate matter in your city.
Absolutely.
And people are more conscious, and if you give them the options, if it makes sense to them, if it makes financial sense to them, if they incentivize to make financial sense, because hybrids are expensive. You have to engineer an engine in there, which costs money, plus you've got an electric drivetrain, which costs more money, which is why they're so expensive. If you incentivize this package because it is more environmentally friendly, I'm sure people will pick it up, and I'm sure people will take to this tech because it has real savings for their pocket over the long run. It has real environmental savings as well. So I think huge potential for hybrids in India. I hope the government does step in soon and incentivize these cars. It might hit sales of EVs more, once that happens. But I think they're necessary, and the government should see the value in this tech.
Yeah, I think I'm all in for it.
Yeah.
You should have the opportunity to choose between the type of powertrains that you want for your car, whether it's petrol or electric or hybrids, and according to the way you use your cars.
Yeah.
So yes,
Okay,
hybrids.
so before we wrap this up, Anand, quick question. One for you and one for me. What is your favorite memory in a hybrid car? Like your favorite driving memory in a hybrid car?
So it goes way back actually. I remember driving the previous gen NX and RX, and I was mind blown because I'd never driven a Lexus before.
Right.
And till then we had only driven the Ciaz's and Scorpios and mild hybrids, and jump into a Lexus and the refinement is so smooth. Everything felt like I was like floating on butter or something like that. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. Drove it from Bombay to Pune, kept it for a few days and back, and it was just simply amazing. And I think that sort of got me into the world of hybrids. Drove quite a few after them, but you tell me about your experience.
I think mine was in the Camry hybrid. Funnily enough, same Toyota family. And we drove this Camry hybrid from Pune to Chorlaghat to do a story at the Wilderness Hotel and talk about how hybrids are good for the environment and this and that, and drive it around that whole Madi Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in Chorla. And my God, what a beautiful 3 days I had. That car is phenomenal to drive. It's a little low, but if you've got the good roads for it, it's incredibly good. Long distances. It's got really comfortable seats, really comfortable interiors. Efficiency is through the roof. And when we reached Chorla, I remember the most spectacular sunset. It was just beautiful, golden light, completely silent all around. Camry running in EV mode, going downhill.
Lovely.
It just sold me on the hybrid dream, you know, and that was it. I was like, yeah, hybrids work, man. They just work.
Feels like endless days at the spa.
Not the spa that I want. The spa that I want has a corner called Eau Rouge. But absolutely, they have potential, hybrids, and I really hope that they do pick up in India. Yeah. Anyway, if you have a question about hybrid cars, if you feel like we haven't covered something, or if you have a counter opinion about hybrids, drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think about hybrids, where you stand. Have you tried a hybrid? Your experiences hybrid? Just spam us in the comments and we will be reading, engaging with all of you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Anand, for filling in today. And we'll see you next week.